Well, ladies and gents, dear viewers and viewers' pets. Here we are again, it's Wednesday, Japanese 101 time, and today, lesson something, I forgot, I lose track, Evie usually knows. Lesson 35, see, I knew it. Today we're gonna talk about two words, yo and so. They're usually for describing appearances and making some statements like that. So especially is used in some other different ways, so we're gonna cover that. Okay, nice cup, something special. Yeah, it's actually. Oop, let me switch in. It's a Sherlock cup, the one from like the BBC show. Even though that got really bad after like season 3. Like season 3 was still okay, and then season 4 was really bad, and then I was like, okay. Hey Arky, konnichiwa. How do I motivate myself to uni assignments? I feel like a routine is better than a motivation at that point. You just have to like focus on working the same hours every day, and then it works. Time last week of what? And finished the more and lurk here. Sure. Okay, so, and yes, Volara, that is indeed the same yo as in sama. Today, we're gonna talk a little bit about those. So first, let us look at using so. Okay, so has a few usages that I want to talk about. Basically, okay, do I have this open? I do, nice. So basically, we're gonna start with so, okay, even though I said yo and so here, but I do want to start with so, because there's like something I want to get out of the way first. We are going to grab the other color here, like that, all right? So basically, so both yo and so are mostly going to, you went to sokong. What is sokong? Like when you get wet quickly. Both yo and so are generally used to explain when something seems a certain way. So, you know, seems like that, seems like this, okay? Now, let's first talk about where you attach so, okay? So like basically the formation, right? I actually haven't done this format in a while because we haven't talked about like such, I guess, strict grammatical concepts. Formation, generally places you attach so and how to attach so. It's fairly easy. You to express that something seems a certain way, right? Seems with so, you will generally attach it to the mas stem or the renyoke of verbs. You will attach it to the stem of adjectives as well, and for non-adjectives and verbs, you just attach it directly without anything. So let's talk about these three, right? Usually that's the three verb groups we're going to look at, because there's really not much else. There is usually verbs, adjectives, which break down in na and i, and then nouns, which are usually the same as non-adjectives. So basically, verbs. For verbs, you'll be looking at doing, let me see, verbs. You'll be looking at basically doing must stem plus so. Must stem plus so. For e-adjectives, I'm gonna shorten to just edgelords. Just kidding. You will generally use the stem of the adjective plus so. That's a really ugly so. Plus so. The stem here is basically the adjective without the e at the end, okay? That's the stem generally. And then non-adjectives, verbs work the same. Yo. Hey, Bowen. Thank you so much for the gift. Thank you! And Joker Deck now has a sub. I appreciate that, Bowen. Thank you. Thank you. So non-adjectives, like I said, in general, whenever you talk about any grammar, they are kind of in terms of like forming grammar concepts, non-adjectives and nouns are often together, because they are very, very similar in terms of how they work. Arigato. So we will just have the adjective slash noun, not mound, by the way, slash noun, and we'll just add so. And there's really not much else that needs to be done here. Okay? So, I can give you like an example for each, all right? So let's keep this in mind. Must stem plus so. E adjective, the stem plus so, which is without the e, okay? At the end, not any e. And non-adjectives and nouns, it's just the word and then so. Okay, that's as far as like the formation goes. Okay? So, let's make some space here and I'll just give you an example for each, okay? So that it's a bit easier, a bit more easy to see. For a verb, we could, for example, talk about like if it's about to rain, right? It seems like rain, something like that. Furu would be a good adjective to, good verb to talk about. So furu, just to rain, okay? To precipitate. Furu plus so. Okay, how do we go about this? Well, we need the must stem. What's the must stem? It's the must form without must itself. So basically, you'll be looking at making furu into furimasu, but without must. So just furi. Furi. Okay, and then you add so. Furiso. Okay, furiso. And then note that once you have so here, okay, to make this just a finished clause, you can often add da as a copula, okay? Da or this, actually. This is very common that you'll add this. I'll sort of add this here as a... Let's do like red, but also optional. It's important, but also it's not 100% required, and it also depends on what happens here. So if you have the end of like a sentence, then da works, or this, you can also leave it out. Ame ga furiso. Yeah, so ame ga furiso would be like a pretty casual way of saying it seems like it's gonna rain. Okay, furiso. That's basically it. And with da, it's sort of the standard effect that the copula has, where now it's more of a declarative statement. It can sound a little bit more stronger or certain. It can also sound a little bit more masculine. It all depends, but it's the general nuances that da has, and this the same. Ame ga furisou desu. It seems like it will rain. Okay, it's essentially the same. Ame ga futteiru you da too. Yes, so ame ga futteiru you da works too. We're gonna talk about that and how so and yo are like slightly different, but that's for later. Okay, that's for an adjective, right? So I'll add the da back in just so you can see that it's often there. Again, note da almost always indicates the end of a sentence. You can't usually put da anywhere if it's not at the end of a sentence. You can, but it has to take other shapes, okay? Wife this. Follow, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you for follow. Let's do an e adjective, okay? A common e adjective that you'll see is omoshiroi. So let's do that one. Also, look at me doing mo properly, right? I've been told multiple times that my mo is wrong, so I'm doing it proper now. Omoshiroi. Shiro. Okay, so omoshiroi, right? Okay, what's the stem of omoshiroi? Well, it's basically omoshiroi without the i. That's an e adjective, so we get rid of this, and we add so. Omoshirosou. Omoshirosou. When to use yo, we'll get to that. But first, let's finish talking about so that it's not too all over the place. Omoshirosou da would be a thing. What's stem? A stem in grammar mostly is sort of a reduced form of the verb that doesn't change. That's what we usually call a stem. Now, there is generally different stems, but once you have a stem, that part of the verb generally does not change anymore. So, for example, omoshiroi has omoshiro as a stem. No matter what you generally do with that e adjective, you will always at least have omoshiro. Whether it's omoshiroi, omoshirokute, omoshirokatta, omoshirosou. Like, no matter what kind of conjugation we use there, the stem is kind of the atomic unit. It doesn't really change. So that's what we generally mean with a stem form, is that it doesn't really change anymore. Yeah, omoshirosou. だと思います. Wait, that's the we've talked about と思う already. I mean, kind of dictionary. You mean, well, dictionary form is usually something not way different. In Japanese, when we say dictionary form, we generally mean the form that is written in the dictionary. But that is not a form that doesn't change. That form changes a lot. The dictionary form is more the like unconjugated form. So the form of the verb that we consider not conjugated or standard, and then all the other conjugations. 降りそうだ. I mean, it seems it will be raining. Yes, that's exactly what it means. Also note that's the wrong furu, okay? When you want to talk about it raining, always use this kanji. Alright? The other one is swinging something. Alright. That's for e-adjectives. Now, adjectives are fairly simple as well. We could use something like kantan. Kantan means simple or easy. Ugh. Kantan. Kantan, okay? And then here it's just adding so, right? Hakisoda, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Kantan so. Kantan so. Okay? All of these are basically just to indicate, like, intuitive and subjective guesses on, like, nature, quality or property of something or someone, okay? So that's kind of the overlying theme for soul, is you're saying like, oh, seems like, seems, right? Seems like, and generally they're like subjective guesses, they're like intuitive things that, you know, you look at something and you kind of make a judgment on its quality or its thing from what you know, from what you can see, from the information that you're given. You don't know for sure. Zach Sweaty, thanks for the follow. ありがとうございます. So that's what soul does. It's for like making these kinds of guesses, okay? Let me scroll. Also, yeah, there's also yeah, kawaii kawaisou. Yeah, yeah, so you have to be careful with kawaisou, because kawaisou generally means pitiful or pitiable. I can show it to you here. 全然簡単そうじゃない. Yeah, doesn't seem easy at all. I can show you here real quick. So the exception here is かわいそう. かわいそう. That's, well, I don't know why this one came up first. かわいそう, while it theoretically exists, it's not really recommended that you use it, because generally people will think of this one. Poor. かわいそう. It's written with different kanji as well. Right? The kanji are different. So for kawaii, there is actually another word that, like, kawairashi is often used rather than that. So that can kind of clear up the confusion. If you say kawaiso, that's like, it's a bit confusing. That's why people tend to avoid kawaiso in its kawaii meaning, so that it can, you know, keep the poor pitiable meaning most of the time. It does exist. It's fine. Grammatically speaking, it's fine. But it's just not really used because it's just too confusing. Alright. So that's that, right? Now, one thing to note is that there's two ways of doing, like, negatives. Let me see. Okay, for the negatives, okay, let's get rid of this. That's all you need to know for how to form it grammatically, right? Like, with this knowledge, you can basically attach soul to any word to make the sentence, like, 面白そう, seems interesting or fun. Or like, 降りそう seems like it will rain, and like, 簡単そう, right? Note that generally I did mention that you could theoretically attach it to nouns, but that generally actually doesn't really happen. You have other words of doing that. So the noun part is kind of, you can kind of forget about that. That was kind of my fault for even implying that. Generally, it's non-adjectives only. The non-adjectives, yes. The nouns, not really. inu so, that doesn't really happen now that I think about it, so don't worry about it. Even though grammatically, adjectives and nouns are often very common. With so, that you don't generally attach so to, you don't generally attach so to nouns directly. That doesn't really happen. One thing to mention is the negatives. So negatives, there's two ways of making negative seems like so statements. One being you can negate the so itself, or you can sort of say it doesn't seem like that. We will talk about rashi next time, I think. I don't have time to fit all of them into one lesson, so I will do like 2 lessons. So next week I want to talk about rashi and mitai, sort of to tie it all up. But today we're just going to talk about yo and so, and then we have time next week for talking about rashi and mitai and how they differ. You can sort of say that it doesn't seem like that, right? Poi. I think poi we can probably fit in next time as well. Which would be basically using so janai. So janai. Okay? Which is saying that it doesn't seem like that. Or the other one, you can use the negative form with nai and just do nasaso. Okay? So nai just turns into nasaso. Na sa so. Nasaso. At which point so itself acts just the same way. So you can still add da here if you want to. That's just so. So here it's just a negative form, na, plus the sa, that's kind of the important part. And then so, okay? For negative forms. Nasa so. Note one exception. Adjectives. Sa should be inserted. Nasa so, yosa so. Yeah. The one exception to the positive, by the way, is anything that ends in yoi. Okay? Anything that conjugates like yoi would be yosaso. Like I yosaso. Yeah. More adjectives like that. Usually ones that incorporate I or yoi, which would be something like kakkoi. So you would say kakkoi is kakko yosaso, obviously, right? So that would be the other one, is that I yoi becomes yosaso. That's just one to remember, okay? Yosaso, kakko yosaso, yeah. I and yoi are yosaso with the sa. Don't ask me why. It's probably historical reasons, okay? Alright, that's for negation and the exception. So you can either say so janai. So, ame ga furisou janai ne. Or ame ga furinasaso. Sorry, furanasaso. Not furi, fura, because it's furanai plus furanasaso. Thank you, Samsors, for the 8 months. Long time no see, indeed. Yes. Seems like a long time, yes. So, real quick, what's the difference, right? You're probably wondering, like, yeah, but like, what's the difference between these two? The answer is not much. Kakko yosaso. Kakko yosaso. You hear it sometimes. There isn't much of a difference here. These are basically the same, and like which one you use is often kind of up to preference or what like sounds right in the situation. Again, sometimes these things are pretty subtle. Think of it in English. I can say, it doesn't seem like it will rain, or seems like it won't rain. These are basically identical statements. So which one to use here is like up to you. What feels right in the situation, that has to do with natural language usage. Often just has to do with what feels right in the context of like, what would a native speaker think feels right? So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. If it feels right to you, that may not necessarily be a good indicator, especially if you're more on the beginner side. Don't trust your own feelings, but trust your brain to learn it over time, I would say. When you read like literature and when you listen to native speakers talk, you should eventually pick up on these things. Just your brain will kind of notice. But yeah, here there's really like not semantically, but the meaning, right? The meaning is, I guess there would be I guess semantically. Semantically, these are identical. They say the same thing. It's two different ways of saying the same thing. All right. There is a little bit more on sa, so I will quickly mention this as well. Since we just talked about yosaso, okay? There we go. Just got gift sub. The streamer who has 3 others without being in their stream. I can't imagine how many gift subs they just gonna put out. That does happen sometimes. Let's talk a little bit more about adding sa, okay? And how it's a little confusing. We're still talking about so, just to be clear. Now, again, with I and yoi, you get yosaso. Now, there is sometimes situations where even though an adjective ends with nai, you should not add sa. And specifically because it's an adjective that ends with nai. So I'll give you an example. So when not to add sa would be, an example would be, you have adjectives that look like they're negative words, but they're not really. They may be originally, but they're not treated like that. So one such example would be kitanai. Okay, so what is kitanai, right? Kitanai. Kitanai is dirty, okay? It looks like a negative, but it's not really treated like one. Sabetsu. So kitanai, when we look at it, we're like, well, that's just a negative, right? Sukunai is another example, yeah. Kitanai. Now, I'm pretty sure that there could be reasons that these used to be like negative construct. I don't know. Also, you don't need to know this. What you need to know is that these adjectives are treated like everyday e adjectives. There is nothing special about this. It ends in nai, but there is really nothing special about them. They're box standard e adjectives. So the same rules apply to them as any other e adjective, which means that if we add so, from what we learned, is that we just get rid of the i and we add so, okay? So we get kitanaso. That is the quote-unquote correct way of doing it. It is true that sa is sort of sneaking its way into these, and it may be that it will once, if it becomes popular enough, this may be the new norm. There is certain ones where it's getting more and more popular, or people don't notice, but they start putting it in. So another one would be tsumaranai. So I can show you down here. Box standard. This means like standard. 0815. Tsumaranai, right? So tsumaranai, you might see people say, hey, Meepo, long time no see. Tsumaranai, it happens that people actually say tsumarana saso. Even though that is theoretically not correct, it's becoming more popular because people just kind of do it. And at the end of the day, languages evolve when people just kind of start doing stuff. So you might see this, and your English, your Japanese, if you go to Japan and you go to language school, your Japanese teacher might mark this as wrong, but you might still see it. So actually, from the link I used, there is an example in an actual book, like Kaoni. Naruse wa tsumaranasasou ni itta, which was written in an actual book that was published. You could call it a mistake, but it is becoming more popular. So for now, think of this as the right way to do it, with e adjectives that end in nai. But you know, you might see it used differently as well. That's just a thing to keep in mind. Cool, that's for sa. These are just like the little things. The type was in textbooks. It wasn't the textbooks, it was with literature. Just like a normal book, like a novel. Sure, there's like mistakes in novels as well, but it does go to show that it's being more, like, it's in people's minds, right? It just happens. People just say it or use it. All right. All right, so generally, again, using so, my IDE, it's IME. Please correct me when I type naso, yeah. Kitanaso. 赤ちゃんは泣き出しそうな顔をしていた. Yeah, so you can sometimes, right version can't be used. つまらなさそう. つまらなさそう would be the incorrect version. the correct version is just つまらなそう because つまらない is just an e-adjective most of the time. Or it's treated like one. Even though つまらない is like even more of an exception because it's even closer to just like つまる and negative. But generally, つまらない is treated like an e-adjective in its usage. But again, e-adjectives, here's a hot take as well. E-adjectives and negative verbs are basically the same, or negative verbs 99% of the time behave almost like e-adjectives, and you can conjugate them the same way. So it gets pretty confusing, okay? That's why there's this like mix-up that happens. All right, I want to talk about one more thing with so. So this, what we just looked at, is using so to make statements about how subjectively something seems to you. Like you're observing something and you're making like a judgment based on that observation. Okay? So, like, 難しそうな本だ seems like a difficult book. 難しそうな本だ. Like, that seems like a difficult book. You maybe have read a few pages or something like that. You're just making an assertion. This is not a statement that is done with 100% certainty, but it's a statement about how it feels to you, how your judgment at the moment works out. 面白くなさそうじゃない I have a new idea for a new Wi-Fi name. Swamp Standards. Nice. Now, there is another usage that you can have with so, and we're going to look at that right now. And that's for hearsay. Okay? Now, the hearsay, I can never remember. Hearsay, right? You just spell it like this. Hearsay, which is when you are quoting something that you've heard. Isn't つまらない, つまるない I've heard? Theoretically, but it's not used like that. It's treated like an e-adjective. Even if you look it up in a dictionary, I'm almost certain that it will just tell you e-adjective. つまらない. Because we don't we don't treat it like that. Sure, it is the negative of つまる, but no one really treats it like that. Or it probably comes from a negative of つまる, but again, we treat it as an e-adjective because that's how it's used. つまらない、つまらなくない、つまら, etc. Just like 汚い. Tenchi G, thanks for the follow. フォローありがとうございます. So, another thing that you'll see is so used for hearsay. It's slightly different. I think I have that here. There. So. There we go. So used for... I'm a bit confused. What point did you want to make with the sa thing then? That positive verbs ending in nai can't be negated with nasa so. The point was that they shouldn't be, but they sometimes are, but officially they shouldn't. That's why. Because the confusing thing is, if I teach you, right? If I teach you something nai turns into nasa so, then I'm kind of half lying to you. Because it doesn't always, right? Because sometimes when you have kitanai, it just turns into kitanaso and not kitanasaso. That's kind of what the point was. But nai, if it's a negative verb or a negative adjective, it will turn into saso, nasaso. That was the point. So let's talk about hearsay. Hearsay, again, is when you hear something. So you are repeating a piece of information that was said to you. Kind of like a quote, but not like directly quoting something, but you're saying like, oh, I hear that, something like that, right? I hear they're having a concert right now, right? Because you read that somewhere or someone said it to you. That's the kind of usage. And the formation here is for verbs. You just add it immediately after the verb without any like conjugation, okay? So you just do standard form, like usually dictionary form. You can also do, because I'm going to use example. I think you can also do past tense. Let me see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can use past tense. Do they mention it here so that I can confirm that? They don't. Let me search my brain. I think you can use past tense, but, you know, usually you will have, like, dictionary form. dictionary form. And then you'll just add soul right away. No change. Okay? No like must stem, none of that. Just dictionary form plus soul. So, 食べるそう、するそう。And it gets to attach to a lot of stuff. Yeah, generally, if it works with dictionary, often it works with past tense as well. They are treated very similarly. Just like you can use past tense in attributive form as well. Like, you know, 食べたリンゴ、食べるリンゴ, both work. Generally, dictionary form and past tense are both considered, I think, 終止形, which are sentence-ending forms, and they often behave in similar ways. So I'm inclined to say that this should work with past tense as well. But to be sure, right, dictionary form works for sure, and then just so. So this would be, to give you an example, would just be like するそう. And if this sounds weird to you, then especially after we've just talked about where we like するそう, earlier we would have done しそう, right? Because する turns into します, so the must stem is し. So the contrast here is しそう. This is like I heard, that's not how you spell heard. I heard, like he, she is doing. And here it's like, it seems to me, he, she is doing, okay? That's the difference. Or will do, okay? Note that is doing or will do could be the same. Or it kind of depends here on how we translate the non-past. Yeah. 三剣が田中を撃ったそうだ. So that should work. So someone told me that he shot them, right? So here, again with するそうだ, if we don't conjugate, the focus is very much on hearsay. Right? It's on the fact that we heard this information somewhere. Whereas しそう is a judgment we make based on our subjective interpretation of what we're looking at. Right? Like we're looking at something and we're making a judgment. We're saying, oh, it seems to me that's how it is. That's the difference. Okay? So that's it for verbs. Just don't do anything. Just use like dictionary form or like sentence ending forms and just add so. And again, you can add da as well to sort of end a sentence or to make an assertive statement. So da. Right? Both of these work. And this as well, by the way. So this, that works as well. The end of a sentence. Then we have e-adjectives, okay? E-adjectives. The rule here persists. It's just the adjective. Wait, wrong order. It's the D first and then the J. Just the adjective plus so, okay? No change. So this is kind of the pattern here, is that for hearsay, we generally do not conjugate anything. So, you know, from earlier we had 面白そう. Now, we just use 面白いそうだ. Right? That would be the formation. 面白いそうだ. This can sound a bit weird, but it is actually correct. This means I've been told it's interesting. So you are not making a statement based on your own experience or based on your own judgment. You are just repeating what you've been told. So it's literally like saying, oh, I've been told it's interesting. 面白いそうだ. 美味しいそうだ. Like, they said it's delicious, but I do not have any experience myself, right? That's kind of what it's saying. So that's for e-adjectives. For na-adjectives, we just need to use da, so da. Na-adjectives. And nouns in this case. Nouns work the same way. This time they do. Last time they didn't, but nouns actually do work the same way. We just do adjective / noun plus da, so da. Da, so da. So da. The da is kind of optional again. It could be a this as well. All right. Mitsurugi. I like how you used the kyujitai for tsurugi there. Tanaka wo utta sou da. Yeah, utta sou da. I heard that Mitsurugi shot Tanaka. So, an example here would be either from earlier we had kantan, right? Kantan being easy. Kantan da soda. This is kind of the new part, right? We add da soda. Again, contrast this to the other version we had before. Kantan soda. Kantan soda seems easy to me. Kantan da soda. I was told it's easy. Getsusom, am I saying that right? Thank you for the follow. Follow, arigato. 勉強しました。勉強してました。You're gonna have to just learn the difference between anytime we use a continuous teiru form or a state of teiru and a normal form. It's the same difference, basically, as always. I have done a lesson on that, so if you want, you can look up, like, teiru. I did a lesson on teiru, and I should mention it in there. Past progressive tenses can be a bit confusing, but if you think about them, you should be able to figure it out. I'm not gonna go too deep into it right now, I'm sorry. That would just take too much time. So, to also give you an example of a noun, would be something like neko da soda. So this works, right? Neko da soda, what would that mean? It's kind of like saying, I've been told it's a cat. This could work in certain contexts, right? It could make sense. So for example, if I ask you, what's Tanaka's pet? Something like, Tanaka, nani o katteru? Like, what is Tanaka having as a pet? Kau can mean to have a pet. So, Tanaka, nani katteru no? Like, what's Tanaka's pet? Okay, so, neko da soda. Apparently, or I've been told it's a cat. That would be an example, right? お寿司を食べるそうだったけど、やっぱり何も食べなかったね would work. Yes, it could work. It's kind of, I'm trying to think like what situation that would fit. So, お寿司を食べるそうだったけど、so, it's kind of weird because, let me think. I guess you could say it. What would that mean? It would mean that, I was told they're eating sushi, but after all, they weren't eating anything. Something like that. その飲み物、コーラだそうだ。コーラだそうだ。It's actually coffee though. Good work. I can give you some more, I was tricked. I could give you some more examples. So like, let's actually do some examples here as well, just to give you some. And then we're going to talk about yo. I think we'll, yeah, so then we'll have yo and so. And again, I'll repeat, next week I'm going to finish this up talking about mitai, rashi, and also poi, probably. So just so we have like the full bag, but it's just a bit too much for one lesson. So examples would be stuff like, this here. I'll just type it myself so I don't have to deal with hiragana. So, uwasa ni yoreba. This means, uwasa ni yoreba, 二人は離婚するそうです. That would be an example. According to rumors, hey therapist, long time no see. 噂によれば damn it, running out of space. 噂によれば二人は離婚するそうです. So, rumor has it that the two are going to get divorced. It makes sense that you would use, バカみたい, yeah. It would make sense that you use like するそうだ here because uwasa is literally a rumor. So, according to rumors, I have heard that the two of them will divorce, are going to get a divorce. That would be an example. This, like, you could say something like, maybe you talk about movie recommendations. You could say like, Kimi no na wa. It's a bit, Kimi no na wa. We'll do parentheses because the wa is kind of annoying else. Kimi no na wa de. I'll use te as a casual topic marker so that we don't have to say kimi no na wa. That's kind of weird. So te here kind of works to sort of get around that issue because the wa is part of the title. That's more of a trying to make it sound more natural thing. But yeah, kimi no na wa te. いい映画。だそうです。Why? だそうです。I had so in there for auto completion. という映画は valid here. 君の名はという映画. Yeah, you could do that. It's basically the same, but you would have 映画 twice. So 君の名はという映画はいい映画. It seems a little bit pleonastic, like you're saying 映画 twice, so close in succession. So it's almost it's not really required, but 君の名は te works really well because it just kind of works as a topic marker here. But yeah, basically, right? That's kind of what te here shortens to. But yeah, and then いい映画だそうです. Also note how we can use like a whole adjective plus noun phrase and then add soda. So I hear it is a good movie, right? And we use いい映画 as good movie as like one noun phrase, and then we add だそうだ to that. That's, by the way, often something that happens in Japanese, is that you take like a whole phrase, a whole clause, and then you kind of use it. You struggle with kanji. We all struggle with kanji. Heard that is you heard that something is a good movie. Yes, exactly. Now, if you wanted to say, it seems like a good movie to me, you would actually have to rephrase it a little bit. You would have to say, like, 良さそう。良さそう映画. A movie that seems good to me. 良さそう映画です. That seems like you maybe have seen some clips and it seems kind of good. 君の名はという映画は良さそうだ. Yeah. Or you could say, yeah, 良さそう映画です. Or actually, 君の名はて映画は良さそう. Right? 良さそう. Your Name, the movie called Your Name, seems good to me. You know? Hearing いい映画 いい映画 makes me wonder what's the longest vowel string. Well, you can have really weird ones like oh, like this. Oh, you can make really weird ones, but yeah, that means let's cover the king. But those are just, you know. Okay, so that's soda. Okay, we've basically now done all usages of so and how it kind of works. So I want to talk about yo, and so how we can like use yo to make like statements that like it seems like. Okay, so we will do that. So yo. Let me get rid of this text box so it doesn't get in the way. How long have I been recording? 40 minutes. I think we should be good. There is a lot to talk about here. That's for sure. I might make 2 or 3 episodes. Maybe we'll do this episode, talk about yo for seems like. Then we'll do an episode next week where we're going to do mitai, rashi, and maybe poi. And then we're going to do a 3rd episode for other usages of yo, because yo itself is a big topic. So there's a lot to talk about. I don't want to overwhelm you though. So I want to keep it sort of a little bit contained, at the very least. I try my best. So let's talk about using yo, right? Don't need a text box. Select this, please. Hello, there we go. All right, next is yo, okay? Ignore the little box up here, okay? We're talking about yo now. So now both have boxes, so now you're ultra confused. But don't worry, I will actually write yo again so that you're no longer confused at all. And you're simply enlightened. Yo, okay? We're talking about yo. And we're gonna talk about, so we'll split yo into 2 episodes of filler between, maybe. Kind of. You can think of different usage of yo as almost, Jennifer streams in GTA. Which one? You mean the, yeah, I used Roundabout. I mean, it's a famous song by Yes. Used in, obviously, JoJo, but yeah. Yo. Well, I don't use that song anymore, though, because DMCA is scary. So we're going to talk about how using yo to say, like, it's good. で、いい映画。で、いい映画良さそうです. So you're kind of saying good twice there, so you have to kind of choose one. で、you could say, I love dogs って、良さそう映画ですね。or っていう映画は良さそうですね。or you could say っていい映画です。Which would be like, it's a good film. or っていい映画 da so desu. I was told it's a good film, so we kind of have to make sure that we don't say good twice. Because yosaso means it seems good, and then tei, well, except if you want to say toyu eiga, teiyu eiga. You could say teiyu eiga, but you said tei eiga, so maybe that's just a typo that I'm overthinking. Alright, so let's talk about yo. So first of all, yo, okay. Yo generally comes from the kanji like sama, yo, okay? Which looks like this. Let me just make sure I don't make, yeah, okay. So you have this boy, and then I think that's all one stroke, isn't it? So generally you'd have yo. I think yeah, okay. There you go. So that's generally yo or sama, okay? So generally it has to do with appearance or like, you know, likeness. So let's just go like, it's this sort of appearance meaning, okay? Yo. We're specifically going to talk about yo. We're not going to talk about sama. You can use sama in some interesting ways as well. Not the least one being a suffix, of course, for an honorific, but we're not going to talk about that. But it is, in fact, that kanji. It generally acts as a noun, by the way. So generally acts more like a na adjective. Maybe to mention that. So itself behaves a little bit like an adjective. So you can also say, like, yosaso na eiga, but it's not always okay. Like, furisou na kanji. Often you will maybe see like having like a verb with so and then used as an adjective for something else. So it kind of behaves like an adjective sometimes. Whereas yo behaves also like an adjective and a noun. So they're both like an adjective noun combinations, I guess. They are fairly similar in that regard, actually. Yo itself behaving like a noun most of the time, but also sometimes like an adjective. And why is that? Again, because adjectives and nouns are extremely similar in the way they behave grammatically, okay? Often when you have a noun or an adjective, there's a lot of overlap there between the two. So, where do you add yo? Well, generally, it ain't all that hard. It's not. Okay. Generally, yo is just added after the dictionary form or sentence ending forms of verbs. Okay, so for verbs, again, you would use dictionary form, or sentence ending forms work as well. Okay, dict form plus yo. Once again, you can often also say yoda. That's just the same here. The difference between saying soda and yoda is like the adding the da is the same. It's just if you want to make like, if you want to finish the sentence, make it more declarative, stuff like that. So the da works the same. Same for this as well. So an interesting thing would just be, or an example would just be like simply taberu you desu. Taberu yo desu. And the way that yo is used here, again, is kind of like seems or like appears. It seems that or it appears that. And the difference to yo and so is that yo tends to be a little bit more objective. Now, it is not 100% objective because you're still making a guess, but it is more objective than so. So tends to be more for how you feel about it, and it's subjective, whereas yo is more like you probably are maybe like you're more like objective about it. You're trying to not like your feelings, more like trying to use like factual things that you think are correct. It also sounds a little bit more like a neutral statement, like it sounds a little bit more formal, okay? So, like, you're just basically saying, like, well, based on the information I have, I think this is what it is, right? So you're probably using, like, empirical information rather than, like, intuitive information. That's kind of the difference. It's less intuition and more just using information you have. But formation is easy. Dictionary form of verb plus yo. mono, koto, kind of. Mono and koto are also very complicated because they also have weird differences where one does one thing when the other doesn't, and yeah. I mean, I think yo and so are similar in the same way that mono and koto are similar in the way that they are words that have almost the same meaning with some slight differences. But that's maybe about it. Like, it's kind of hard to make these comparisons, but yeah. For adjectives, you usually, let me see. Can we have a good one here? Yoda. I'm looking at some examples. I'm pretty sure that really not any adjectives here. So for e adjectives, usually e adjectives as well, you just add yo usually. There, yeah, karai works. So for e adjectives, it's once again no conjugation at all. Just you have the adjective and then you add yo. So there's not much going on here either that you need to consider. Da. Okay, and then non-adjectives would be for non-adjectives would be, let me think, it's now or no. That's a different one. Ta. Wait, don't they mention this here? Am I blind? Yo. I'm pretty sure that you would say na. I could have sworn that I just read this. Oh yeah, there. Use na. There. I knew I read it. That's why I was looking for confirmation, because I swear I read the sentence. For na adjectives, you just add the na part and then you add yo. So you add adjective plus na plus yo. Okay. That's what you do. My handwriting is becoming progressively worse. And for nouns, you use no. For nouns, you would use noun plus no plus yo. Alright, that's that. Right? E adjectives, just the adjective. So, 面白いようだ, 辛いようだ. All of these work. Na adjectives, you add the na. 簡単なようだ. Nouns, you add no. 犬のようだ. Okay? Now, よ is often also used to compare things. So when you say like, especially with nouns, but also like actions in general, because yo is like appearance or like the quality of something, often what you'll see is that something like, I'll make an example, right? This is easier to see. This is the formation, right? You don't really have to change much in any of these. Just with no adjectives add na, and with nouns add no. That's basically it. If we have something like inu no yoda, so that's like, is like a dog. There's more comparison. Well, ho and yori are used to compare things in terms of what is more, right? But you can still say that something is like something else. That is a other type of comparison. So in English as well, I can compare things in terms of saying this is bigger than this. That's a comparison. But I can also say this is like that. And that is also a comparison because I'm saying these two things are similar or they're the same. So inu no yoda. So it's like, is like a dog. Seems like a dog, is like a dog, behaves like a dog, appears like a dog. Okay? Now, the interesting part here is that since yo can kind of act as a noun / na adjective, yeah, gotoku can work similar to yo actually. Inu no yoda. Quantitative versus qualitative. I guess. I don't know if you would say that. Probably, yeah. Maybe? Is that what you... I don't know if that's the term people actually use. because I'm not sure if like more or less, yeah, I guess that would be like quantitative comparison versus qualitative comparison. Maybe. I don't know if that's a term that people use officially, but it does make sense. Inu no yoda means like a dog. Now, the cool thing about this is that we said na can kind of behave like, or sorry, we said no, I can't talk. We said that yo can kind of behave like a noun or an adjective. So what's a thing we can do with non-adjectives? Well, we can use them as adverbs. Okay? What are adverbs? Adverbs describe actions. So we can compare, we can take a comparison and then we can use it to describe an action or a noun actually. Inu no yona. So one example would be, we could use it as a non-adjective. So inu no yona, I don't know, inu no yona mane. Mane means like doing something, behaving in a way, right? Mane. Behaving like a dog. Behavior that is like a dog. So that's using yo as a non-adjective compound. And we can use this whole thing as a non-adjective. Being like a dog. Namane. So mane, which is usually used for behavior or the way you do things. Well, the mane is like a dog. Inu no yona mane. It's like you behave like a dog. You're doing things like a dog would. We can also use it as an adverb. How do we use non-adjectives as adverbs? Well, instead of na, we say ni, and then we add the verb after that. I hope you remember this. We did go over this. If you don't remember like adverbs and adjectives and stuff, I have made lessons about that. Inu no yo ni, and then we could use some verb that dogs do. I don't know, like one would be like hoeru. Hoeru means to howl. Yeah. To bark or to howl. Inu no yo ni hoeru. Hoeru. This means to bark like a dog. Okay? So note how I think this is really nice. I don't know if you agree, but I think these things are really incredibly nice because it just makes so much sense. Like I give you, you know, I share this word like yo, and I tell you, oh, it can behave like an adjective. And that's not just the thing I say, like literally you can use it as an adjective. You can take like a whole structure and you can then use it like an adjective, and you can use it as an adjective or as an adverb as well to describe an action. This is very, very useful. This sort of taking a comparison, saying like a dog, and using it as an adverb is super useful because now we can make statements about actions in a whole new way. We can like compare the way someone acts to something else, and it's super, super useful and happens all the time. So this usage of yo you will see a lot. Okay, so there you go. There's two moods of conjugation, indicative and subjunctive. I don't know about that. Inu no yo ni mieru. Yeah, and then the yo ni mieru is also something that you'll see a lot because it's inu no yo, like a dog, ni mieru, it appears that way to me. We use inu no yo ni adverbially to the mieru. So we're describing the way we are seeing it by saying it's like a dog. So it looks like a dog to me. Inu no yo ni mieru. So there you go. That is that. We're gonna talk about yo a little bit more, I think, but next time. There is a little bit more to talk about with yo, but we're running out of time, and I think I've already mentioned a lot. So let's use the remaining time rather than going even deeper. Let's use the remaining time to take a step back and to actually review what we did, okay? So, boop, there we go. We had yo and so. So let's write them side by side. Yo and so. So, 姿が犬のように見える. Yeah. 鳥のように食べる. To eat like a bird. I know that's usually said for like eating small portions, but I don't know if Japanese actually have that connotation for birds. I'm not sure. 働いていますよ。He's working like a dog. Teen spirit のように匂って。Sure. It smells like teen spirit. Yeah. ような匂い. You would probably say 匂いがする. So, teen spirit のような匂いがする. But yeah. 見えるように as you can see. 見えるように is like, it is like it's visible. 見えるように it's like it is visible to me. You're saying like, that's how it is to me. Like, 見えるように. Like, as though I can see. So, let's talk about yo and so. Okay, so yo again, is a little bit more objective. Objective. Okay, a little bit more objective. It can be used to compare appearances. So like, likeness and appearance. Likeness and appearance. Okay, so 犬のように like 犬のようだ like a dog. Okay, the formation again, よ attaches to the dictionary form of verbs and sentence ending forms, right? And it's also for like it seems like. Again, it's all about like comparing it to a thing or an action. Whereas so has like two big usages. One also seems it is like more of a subjective thing. It's more intuitive. Subjective, intuitive. I'm not gonna write intuitive. That's too long of a word, and I've already written subjective. It's like, you know, seems like. That one attaches to the mas stem of verbs, or the stem of e-adjectives, which would be like 雨が降りそうです. It seems like it will rain. 見ての通り. That's you have to kind of know about like notori's usage there, but yeah. Again, remember 見えるように is the issue is that you're using 見える and then you're adding the よ after. So what you're saying is it is like visible. So it is like it can be seen. Like 見えるように濃い. I don't know, 濃い霧, I don't know. But you would probably use hodo in that case. It's a bit like it can probably be said, but the reason you're like having when you're just like as you can see, you would usually say mite no tori and not mieru yoni, because mieru yoni also just sounds like you're trying to say so that you can see it, which is something that we'll probably talk about next time, especially yoni suru. Yeah, that's kind of a difference. Miru yoni. Again, this like this usage of yo here with, especially with actions, when you say verb plus yoni is a little bit different. That it's not what you think it is, but we'll probably clear it up next time or the time after that. I feel like I need more time to talk about this because it's a bit of a different usage, and it's not. It works a little different as though it was a noun. But yeah. Comparison, right? Yo is more of like a comparison of likeliness, and so is more of a judgment or a like an intuitive statement, like judging something. It seems what it seems like to you. So again, when you use it as subjective judgments, like it seems like to me, it appears like to me, you add it to the must stem of verbs. 雨が降りそうです. It seems like to me, it will rain. You add it to the stem of e-adjectives. 面白そうです. That seems interesting. 面白そうですね. That seems interesting, doesn't it? Right? Or you add it to non-adjectives. 簡単そうです. That seems easy. Number 2 is hearsay. Hearsay. Okay? For hearsay, you do not really conjugate at all. You just add it right after the verb or right after the e-adjective. So instead of 降りそうです, it would be 雨が降るそうです. Now note this difference, right? When I say, I can give you a really cool comparison here. If I open the window and I look at the sky and I see the sky is gray, I will probably say, 雨が降りそうです. It seems like it will rain, because I'm making a judgment based on what I just saw, and it's kind of like subjective but intuitive. So I say like, oh, it seems like it will rain. It's just information that I have. I'm like, oh yeah, I think it'll rain. If I hear the news report, right, and I want to like relay like, hey, I heard on the news that it's gonna rain, I could say, 雨が furu sou da, or ame ga furu sou desu. It's like, I heard it will rain. I haven't really checked myself, but I heard it. I heard the information from someone. Usually this is verbal, but it can also be like, I read it somewhere, but usually it's verbal. Like talk, like someone told me. That would be like the difference there. And for e adjectives, you just add it right after the e adjective. So, oishisou, which seems delicious to me. Like maybe I'm looking at a cake, I'm like, oishisou. That seems nice, that seems delicious. Or I would say, oishisou, oishisou, oishisou da. Often people will actually add the da when they're making hearsay statements, oishisou da. So that it sounds a little different. At least in my experience, people often add the da or this. Oishisou desu. And that sounds more like, well, I was told it's delicious. Maybe I don't have any experience myself, or I'm not really looking at it, but I'm saying what someone else told me. That's the difference. And so if ever you want to correct someone, I see this a lot. I see this a lot where people say like oishisou, and they mean oishisou, and then they get corrected to say oishisou is wrong. It's not really, but it means something that they don't know yet. So maybe if ever someone asks you, like, when someone asks you, like, am I using it correct? Is it oishisou? For saying, oh, it seems delicious. Instead of correcting them to say, no, that's wrong, it's oishisou, tell them that's not wrong, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. So, it seems delicious would be without the e, and if you want to say that you heard that it's delicious, it's with the e. I see this. This is the source of a lot of confusion, where people think that only one is right. They think that only this one is right, but both exist. Generally, you might see that this is probably the more common one, but theoretically they both exist, and they both mean different things. Yo with verbs earlier. Taberu you desu. Could you give me a translation for that? Seems like they're eating. Taberu you desu. Yeah, it's at that point taberu you desu and tabesou desu are pretty similar. Taberu you desu seems like more of like more of an objective call. It seems pretty how to say? It seems pretty like empirical. It's like you're just kind of using some facts to make that statement. You're just saying like, well, based on my knowledge from the facts I know, it seems they are eating. Taberu you desu. And it can sound a bit more formal as well. We're gonna get into that with mitai as well, because mitai is kind of like the casual version of yo in some ways, but we're gonna get into that. Ayafumi-san, konnichiwa. Whereas, and also yo generally is more like, it doesn't seem as much that you are literally like looking at them. Often so is used when you're really just like looking at something and gathering information like in the moment or something like that. Whereas, or like specifically like with visual information, I feel like so is pretty common when you're just making a statement based on what you see. Whereas yo seems more like you're using facts to arrive at a conclusion. Something like that. But yeah, it seems like they're eating is a good translation for that. Taberu you desu. Also, if you want to be more specific, tabeteiru you desu. Tabeteru you desu, obviously. With the, like, frickin', what was it? The progressive tense. That's what I wanted to say. Taberu you desu could also be, they will eat. It seems they will eat. But yeah, that depends. That's different discussion, I guess. So that's yo and so. I feel like, that kind of sums it up. I will link you to some articles that you can read. This is the one I've been using all the lessons, almost all of them. I'm like 5 lessons behind, I think, but I will get there. I've been lazy with uploads again. Ay. Punish me for that. Minus 20 subs, Eve. Very bad. Not good. I will see that I can do the uploads again to catch up. So here's one that I used today. I also used parts of this. So you can check this. I used parts of this. Punish. And I used parts of this. we had a lot of references today. And I used, I think this, right? Seam. Oh, I posted the same one twice, damn it. Seam.htm. HTM, guys. Which one did I not? Okay, we have similarity, similarity twice. Similarity. Yoda. Soda. Soda rashi. I think you have the most important stuff. It's like the imabi lessons. Guess the real lesson today is read imabi. You can read imabi. It's pretty good. Sometimes I feel like they're a little short. Like not short, but they're a little how to say? They're a little inorganic. Inorganic in a way where they give me a lot of examples. That's cool. But sometimes I feel like they don't focus as much on how it's actually used. Often condensed. It's pretty condensed. Yeah. Sometimes I struggle to find like the really like the key information. But they do show like it like from like a pure fact standpoint. They show you like the most precise sort of analysis of how it is. But sometimes I feel like I walk away almost with a feeling that it's too theoretical. So I try and add a little bit of that. Because phrasing that you will find rarely in Imabi, I feel like I haven't read large parts of Imabi. It's a lot, to be fair. I feel like phrasing you never see is like when you want to express this or that. It feels a little bit unorganic, maybe. But maybe it's just me. That's like an issue I have with Imabi, I think. But it's cool because the information is very like condensed, and I can just kind of use it for reference. So it helps me for the stream. And they use a lot of example sentences, which is good. I need those for the stream as well. All right. Oh boy. Yeah, I've been recording for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So this would be a good point to stop for today with this lesson. And then we can do the reading circle after that, because we still have a half-finished book that we need to read. That's what we're going to do. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm going to obviously be answering any at this point. You can just ask any question if you like. I'm going to end the recording here. So if you want to do that, ask my question again. Oh, sorry, I missed that question. Do you use kanji with both of them? Yes. There is, no, you just use kanji like normal. Furiso, furuso, they would both use kanji just like that. Condensed, koru. It's me, or did the stream start 1 hour early? No, I don't know if you caught it last time. I switched the slot back to 6 p.m. because I'm working from home mostly. And the reason why I pushed it to 7 p.m. in the first place was because of commuting. But I'm not really commuting, so I pushed it back. All right, that was lesson 35. I guess I will see you next week. Shio. Thank you, Salt. Dab. Yo. Thank you so much. Dabu. Dabu di dabu dai. I'll see you next lesson.